from there. So we'll just have fun. Well, welcome to Encounter Live. Excited that you are taking the time to really wrestle with some of these questions and these situations that you and I are facing on a daily basis. And we've covered things from postpartum depression to next week we're continue talking about mental health. But today I'm really excited because we get to sit down with one of my friends. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to call you Mr. Hamilton in this conversation.
Yeah, that would be a little bit better. I'm just kidding.
Mr. Hamilton or Pastor Sean Hamilton, or just what's up. But I'm just excited that you're here kind of talking through this craziness of COVID season. You're a junior high teacher.
Correct.
And you've been teaching, you said 8 years.
This is my 8th year teaching. Yeah, I did 2 years in LA Unified.
Okay.
Where you get bruised up and beat up and you get turned into a real man.
Yeah.
And then now I moved to Buena Park, where we've been for the past 6 years.
6 years. Wow. In junior high.
Junior high. My first year teaching, I taught high school. Okay. I loved it. The school closed down. It was a small school. They got closed down. So then I went to a middle school. Okay. And then fell in love with middle school. Cool. And so I've been doing that ever since. Subject. I teach math. So I got a degree in math. Okay. When I graduated high school, I was only good at one thing. Well, 2 things: soccer and math. Okay. And so soccer, I played another year of soccer in college, and then I just kept doing math and kept doing math. And then actually just took a job randomly at like a after school program and found out that I liked teaching. Yeah. And now here I am 8 years later. That's crazy.
I remember Sean and I have known each other for a while. Yeah. And so I remember you teaching there. It's right off of, is it Telegraph?
I taught at several. Yeah, I taught Telegraph and Florence. Okay. Yeah. A little school right there. Yeah.
That's so fun.
So that's where all the magic happened.
That's awesome. Married to Amanda.
Yes, we've been married for 7 years. 7 years. Wanted to get it right. 7 years. 2 girls, 4-year-old, and a just turned 2-year-old. Absolutely out of control, but I love them.
You're a girl dad.
Yeah, I am full-fledged. Hashtag girl dad.
Do you have your own set of fairy wings, or do you still borrow?
No, I still borrow them, but I do have a hat that says girl dad. I have not embarrassed. I will paint my nails. I'll paint their nails.
That's awesome.
I am all in it.
That's awesome.
Maybe one day a boy, but if it doesn't happen, I am fully content. I think that every guy needs a girl.
Oh, for sure.
Needs at least one girl to soften you up.
We can talk about that all day long.
Oh my God, I love my girl.
It's like, yeah, we could just all day long talk about our kids, and especially our daughters own us.
Yeah, totally, 100%.
So, which is neat too, because your daughter just started preschool as well.
Yeah, TK.
TK. Yes. And so not only are you a teacher, but now you're a parent with a young one in school.
Yes.
So I want to talk a little bit about that. But let's talk a little bit about last year.
Okay.
The opening credits of 2020.
Right, the craziness.
The craziness. The month that lasted for years.
Yeah, it was not, I remember the last day I taught with kids. Yeah. The high school math teachers came in and they were doing placement tests for next year. So the kids, I wasn't even teaching them. Yeah. They were taking an assessment with the high school teacher, and I was there. Yeah. And as they're working, me and the other high school teacher, we're just on our phones because we're getting emails. It was that morning, LA Unified closed, and pretty much every school in California follows LA Unified. Yep. So they were closed, and then we're like just waiting for our emails, and then I got an email, and then finally he got an email from his district. Oh my God. And so we're like, don't tell the kids, because we want the kids to finish the test. And I remember at that point, and this sounds so like self-centered, my biggest fear was spring break was coming up, and we were planning on going to Disneyland every day, right? we have annual passes, and I'm like, just don't shut down Disneyland, right? And then of course, obviously,
shut
later.
Down the schools, just not
I mean, like a couple of days we'll do whatever, but let's keep Disneyland open. But yeah, so now we haven't been to Disneyland for 6 months.
So how was that transition for you as a teacher, going from, hey, we're in person to suddenly we're online? Yeah. And everyone's kind of freaking out at this time. People are scavenging for toilet paper. Yeah. How did you kind of approach even just how the kids were doing?
Yeah, so I would, it's interesting because the technology, education, as much as we're educators and learners, most of education is like behind in times in terms of technology. Okay. So that's why a lot of teachers are trying to catch up to Zoom and all these other ways that we're able to interact with students. So our district was lucky, but the kids already went one-to-one iPads a couple of years ago. We already had our learning management system where we can give assignments and collect assignments. So we were doing well. Kids were doing well in terms of getting their stuff. And what I would do is I would honestly just send out surveys to the kids sometimes for their homework assignments. Like, how are you? What do you need?
Wow.
How are your parents doing? Like, hey, I miss you guys. And I would just leave a blank space underneath on like a Google form. And they would, hey, Mr. Hamilton, I miss you too. Like, this is happening. This is happening. Just to keep in contact, because I already had a relationship with those kids for almost 8-9 months at that time. Yeah. And so that was tough. And then we were trying to do Zoom, but I don't know, like there's this thing, I don't know if you've heard of it. Now people are getting Zoom bombed. Yes. Right? Well, they'll send the code out to like some gamer site, and then like hundreds of kids will try to jump on. And there were school districts where like bad images were coming up that you shouldn't be showing kids, right? And all these, and so the school districts were like just shutting no Zoom, like let's keep everybody safe. And nobody knew what was happening. It was chaos, to say the least. And so it was just, okay, let's just forget math, pause math for a second. Like you'll learn math next year. We'll catch up next year. Like, how are you doing? How is your family? How is your parents? And I think most teachers, that's why they got into education. Yeah. It wasn't for the small pay, right? It was for the kids. And so that was really our intent as a school was we like cut our workload like a lot, maybe like 80%, just focus on student needs. Wow. Like food, like what do they need? And so that's what that first couple months was as we ended that school year. And obviously kids were sad. I went to, we like handed out their diplomas. And so I was there and like waving to them, but I'm wearing a hat and my glasses and a mask and they have no idea who I am. I'm like, it's me, Mr. Hamilton, like your favorite teacher. I put it back on. But yeah, it was good to see them. It was really good to see some of them. So it was special that day.
And I love how you mentioned like the heart of why you teach is for the kids. It's not, yes, you're good at math, but you don't want to just sit and talk about math all day.
Right. I mean, I could. Don't get me wrong. I could. I love math. Yeah. Actually, this side note, this year I'm teaching honors geometry for the first time. Oh, wow. And so I have like, in the junior high, like our top kids, and it is glorious. That's cool. We can talk the same language.
I would not be in that class.
It's fun. But like the reason I teach junior high, the reason I fell in love with junior high and not high school is because I wanted to get into education, not to just to have a job, but to really impact kids. And I said, in high school, I noticed when I taught high school, a lot of the kids that dropped out have already dropped out by sophomore, junior year. And so I figured if I taught junior high, I'd have an opportunity, because not many students, very, very few drop out in junior high. It's more when they get to high school. So if I can influence them in junior high, if I can speak into their life in junior high, then maybe in high school, they'll have a better outlook. So it's cool.
The most influential teacher I ever had was my 8th grade history teacher. And I remember just that, I don't know if it's a combination of that age and that knowing that like you're going to the big school like the next year.
The real school,
it was just so important that a teacher saw me and invested in me. And it sounds like that's what you're doing.
Yeah, I think honestly, like if I could say one thing to parents, to other educators, anybody, it would be, man, just listen to a kid. Like, I feel like I know some of these kids better than their parents know them because I see them raw and real. I see them cussing when their parents don't think they cuss. I see them dating when their parents tell them they can't date, right? Like I see them on Snapchat when their parents say they can't have a Snapchat. Like I see them who they're like secretly trying to be. And sometimes they're just hurting for attention. They come to school sad because they got in a fight with their parents and their parents probably think they're mad at them. But the truth is they're just hurt and they just want someone to listen to them. And so in junior high, I teach half math, half like social, emotional. Here's how to be a human being and functioning human being.
How to put on deodorant.
Yes, definitely. How to not fart. Only a little bit of Axe, not the whole can, right? All that stuff in junior high.
Oh, that's cool. So I just want to see if you have any questions, make sure that you type that into the chat so we can ask that here. So how have you kind of dealt with, someone's asking, how do you dealt with new students? So now you're in a new year. New students who maybe, so how do you process that?
This is crazy, right? Last year was easy, I think, to me, because I knew all my kids. I knew who they were. I knew what they were about. I knew their struggle. I knew now coming in, like, I don't know. And I'm looking at them from a 2x2 inch square on a screen. And I'm trying to do surveys and I have 160 kids that I don't know. And so I'm trying to memorize names, which took me 2-3 days in a regular school. Now on Zoom, I'm like, I just know your name by it's printed on the Zoom box. And so it's way difficult. And to be honest, I think that students are struggling with their relationships, but I think teachers are probably struggling with that like purpose and that passion. I think I would have to say 80 to 90% of teachers are in education because of the students.
Yeah.
I mean, the summers off are great, the weekends off are great, you know, the benefit, all that stuff is cool, but it's the kids. Like that's why we stay teaching.
Yeah.
And I think there's a big, if I can be honest, there's a big like heartbreak for teachers too.
Yeah.
I know some, like they make memes like, oh, like teachers are being lazy or whatever. But truth is like teachers are heartbroken too because they love their kids. Like they love spending time with their kids.
Yeah.
And on a Zoom just isn't the same.
Yeah.
Like I think we all, the past 6 months, probably all of us have been on more Zoom calls than in our whole life combined.
Way too many.
Right, way too many. And we just miss that human, like I see a human being and like, because I think when I teach in front of the class 10, 15 minutes, like kids' attention spans like this, but then now we're working and we're doing activities and we're doing independent work. And that's when I'm able to come and help a student individually on math or maybe just in life. Like, hey, how's this going? Like I've had students who their like parents were doing cocaine like in the room next to them, you know, and Mr. Hamilton, like this is going on, like, and I'm able to talk to. I have students that were suicidal where all those conversations I had happened in the small moments in between, not me on a stage teaching math, but in those small moments. And for me personally, those small moments are what I miss. Yeah. Because right now I can teach math on Zoom just as fine as I could in class. That's easy. The kids will be able to understand it just as much as in person as they would on Zoom, at least for me. But it's those small moments that I miss to be able to know the kids and to really like why I got into teaching to help. And so I think being creative in that way is where a lot of teachers are looking for that connection. Like, how do I connect with you? The content that will come. You know, like you could watch a video, you could do this, we can talk, but those small moments where kids need that outlet, they need someone to listen to them, they need someone to care. I think for a lot of kids, school became a home. And they were like, this is where I feel safe. This is where I feel secure. And I have Mr. Hamilton. I had a student last year. Every day I would stand by my door and I welcome all the kids in. And I said, we'll call her name Sandy for the sake of YouTube Live. And so I said, hi, Sandy, hi, Sandy, hi, Sandy, every day. And then one day I was at my desk. I had to do something, so I wasn't at the door. And she walked in and she's like, Mr. Hamilton. I said, yes, Sandy. She said, why don't you say hi to me? I'm mad at you. And it's as if this I know it was something small, but it meant a lot that an adult saw me and said hi to me. You know, and so I miss those small moments where I don't get that, and I'm trying to recreate it online. And that's like been a difficult thing to do.
You brought up a great point. Is school is a safe place for a lot of these kids. And now that they don't get to do that, they don't get to come to that safe place. And something our children's pastor brought up is Zoom, though, it's kind of what we have, but it also invites other kids to almost a window into the family's dysfunction. Have you encountered that where there's maybe yelling or screaming or things that shouldn't be happening behind the scenes? And how do you teach through that? How do you coach through that? How do you?
Luckily, the younger kids, those teachers are saints. Like in my eyes, like I don't know how you teach below 6th grade, just in general, let alone on Zoom. I have my daughter, she's 4, she started TK. And my wife's a stay-at-home mom, luckily, and she has a 2-year-old sister who's running wild in the background, right? And I would say we have a pretty normal household. I couldn't imagine if there's extended family that lives there and pets, and it just must be chaos. But I think for me, there's not much, like when we interact and when they unmute, I'll hear like the yelling in the background or the dogs barking or the kids saying, Mom, I'm at school right now, you know, like, and so I don't think the parents, like, especially in the culture where we're in the city where I teach at Buena Park, it's like, it's very diverse. We have $1 million homes and then we have Section 8 homes all in the same city. And so we see like the diversity. And so we see I think some families where the parents are like, this is not really school. Like, it doesn't really matter. Like, you don't really have to go. Like, and so trying to keep the kids motivated to say, no, this matters. This is not like last time we did distance learning where we didn't really learn anything. This is like, we're really teaching you new stuff. You need to be here. And I think the attendance at least for our school has been pretty good. I maybe have like 1 or 2 absent a period, which is great. But I get a lot of parents who talk to me and they're like, what do I do? My kid's not listening. What do I do? And I just tell them, hey, like, what's more important is that your child remembers how you made them feel. I mean, even us, right? Like we look back to 8th grade. Do you remember all the stuff in U.S. history when you were in 8th grade? No. Do you remember some of the math? No. You know what I mean? Like we don't remember, but we remember how people made us feel.
Absolutely.
And so I tell parents, listen, like they'll learn the content. Whether now or next year, you can hire tutors. Like, but what you can't change is how you made them feel that day. They feel loved, if they feel cared about, if they feel like respected, if they feel like they're still smart at the end of the day. And so
if they start feeling defeated and worthless, they're not going to want to learn.
No.
The content is now irrelevant.
Right.
It's not just something, hey, we can push back. But I think that's huge for a child's emotional, intellectual, and it's even spiritual health.
Right.
We need to be speaking life. So one of the questions we got right now is, how would you encourage parents? You kind of already did it. How would you encourage them both practically and emotionally?
Yeah, I think
with online learning.
For one, just letting their children know that the emotions that they're feeling are normal, right? Like, I'm frustrated right now. That's normal to feel frustrated. I'm not saying stay there. I'm not saying let's be frustrated for the rest of our lives, but it's normal. It's a normal emotion that you're having. I think when they can feel like, hey, like I also get frustrated as a parent. I'm frustrated at you right now, right? I'm frustrated at distance learning. I'm frustrated at COVID. But saying, okay, now that I'm frustrated, what do I do? And so now we get an opportunity to teach our kids, right? So I think we as parents have sometimes let the school district teach our kids the same way we let the church teach our kids about God. Well, you should learn everything you need to know about God at Sunday school, and I don't need to. No, I should be the main teacher as the parent of the home, and the church should come beside me and help me teach. And so same thing in education. Like, the school they have standards and we're teaching things, but you should be teaching your kid as well. Teaching them ways to strategize, teaching them ways to study, teaching them ways to cope. And maybe you didn't do well in school, but this is an opportunity for you to change the generation after you. And saying, you know what, just because I didn't do good in school doesn't mean you don't have to do good in school.
There's a lot of parents out there who are, when the kids go to bed, are trying to learn algebra at night. So they can help out. Or for
all this new math.
Second grade math. It's harder than it was before.
It's changing, And I think the other thing I would say is, no one's going to fight for your kid more than you will.
That's huge.
Like, if your kid's not getting the attention that they need, first off, give your teachers grace, because some of them, I remember I got at Buena Park, and my first year there, they had just got laptops. They were running on old PC computers. This was 2015. I had teachers who didn't know how to log into their emails in 2015. Right? Like, where we already have smartphones, they can't log into their email. And so now imagine, and these same teachers are teaching in 2020. So imagine them trying to log into Zoom, have a Zoom classroom, trying not to let Zoom bombers come into their classroom, trying to learn, like, the teachers a lot of them are overwhelmed if they don't know all that stuff. So they're overwhelmed like that. And then now they have kids and they're trying to figure out how to teach kids. And so teachers are overwhelmed, but nonetheless, no one will fight for your kid as much as you should.
That's good.
Don't expect the school to fight for them. Don't expect even the teachers to fight for them. As a parent, like, that's our responsibility to say, like, my kid deserves an education. So whether it's at the school where I'm at, whether the teacher that I'm at, maybe I move to a different, like, homeschool, but whatever it is, but make sure you're fighting for your kid.
That's good. Something that we teach here a lot is parenthood is a calling. It's a divine calling that you don't get to push on somebody else. Like, it is your responsibility, your privilege, that to, like I said, fight for your kid, to stand up for your kid, to make sure that they're getting what they need, but also to encourage them, and to speak life into them. That our parents' voices become our inner thoughts, and we need to be able to speak that life, because when they hit hard times, frustrating times, they're only going to repeat what they've heard.
100%.
They can't make something else. You only know what you know. So that's awesome.
No, that's so funny, because we have, like, parent teacher conferences. A parent will come in and I'll say, I have no more questions. I know exactly why your child is the way that they are, because that's all they know. All they know is what their parents. And so and also parents. I mean, even if you want to get together with other parents, with the same age kids, same school or different schools, but just strategize what's working for you, what's not working for you, and just be able to rely on one another.
I think, and that's one of the things that we forget a lot, because I know when we pick up our kids from school, we spend that time, 15 minutes before, talking to other parents. Hey, did you get this assignment? Did you understand this? But that project was due today. And all those different things, you have that parental relationship. So it's even important for parents, like you said, they need to find community, people that they can talk to.
Absolutely.
I think one of the biggest words during this whole season, we hear words like COVID, we hear words like sickness, we hear words like lockdown, like all these huge words. But I really believe in 2020, the greatest word we can speak with people is grace. Because no one trained for this.
Right. No one's been through it.
Did you remember your pandemic class?
Right, yeah. Yeah, in college I took it,
Yeah. None of us trained for this.
Right.
So whether you're a teacher, you're a parent, you're a student, you're a pastor, you're an architect, you're a server at a restaurant, just grace.
Yeah.
Just grace for yourself, grace for other people.
Yes. Grace for yourself is a massive one.
Huge.
If your kid's struggling, it doesn't mean that you're a struggling parent.
Yeah.
It means that you're a human being and your kid's a human being going through something new.
Yeah.
Right? Like I've been going to the gym and I'll be lifting like 35s on each, which is nothing.
Yeah.
And I'm struggling, but I'm struggling because that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
And I can get stronger as I push through the struggle and don't give up on the struggle. Good. And so.
That's good. Yeah. And I think that's kind of one of my questions here is what's been the best thing? What thing do you think that if this didn't happen, you would have never learned this or never got to do this in this season?
I think just being creative with the way that I'm able to deliver content.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because I've only been teaching for 8 years, but the beginning part was so much like, how do I best teach this and how do kids understand this? Yeah. And this year I'm able to look at so much data on the kids. And so we're doing all online assignments. And so I'm seeing all this data come in. Okay, you've mastered this and you've mastered this. So I'm able now to almost pinpoint students' areas of struggle because of how much data I look at. Yeah. I have way more time to look at data because they give us more time in our schedule to look at data. Yeah. So now I'm able to look at data and really pinpoint, which then makes my life easier because I'm thinking now that when kids come back, I'll be even more, be able to target those kids that need. And usually the ones that struggle are school. It's a reflection of what's going on at home. Yeah. Not all of them, but many times it's a reflection of what's happening. Yeah. And so I'm able to pinpoint which students are struggling and why they're struggling. That's good. And so I love that side of it. Yeah. I miss the human interaction with the kids, but I love that side of it, being able to, I'm like a numbers guy. So I love looking at all the data and the numbers and
but I think I love that because we can take any situation and just talk about how terrible it is. Right. But then we don't learn anything. If we didn't learn anything, it was a waste. Yeah. And so I love how you said, hey, now I have this information. So when we do come back in person, now I get both. Right. I get the relationship and the data to help these students succeed. Yeah, 100%. I think on a personal level too, like the family time has been incredible. Yeah. I've washed more dishes in these 6 months than I have my whole entire life. It has been insane, the amount of dishes I've had to wash, the amount of meals I've cooked at home. It's been incredible. The amount of times I've swept up after meals, it's incredible. But like I don't see my kids being worse off because they got to spend 6 months with dad at home full time. Right. I just can't imagine that. And so I'm hoping that as parents, we also look at this as could be a positive, could be frustrating, but I think in the end, kids want their parents. Yeah, they do. Even in junior high, I took I got my when I was doing my master's degree, I read a book on junior high kids. It's so interesting. They said junior high is at this interesting age because they know they need to hang out with their friends to be cool, but their best friends used to be their parents. Yep. So when they're in this awkward stage of, hey, you were my best friend, but I can't be your best friend right now. I need these to be my best friend. And they push you away, but they don't want to push you away because they're your best friend. Yeah. And so me being able to teach in this area is just it's so fascinating. And then being a male, I've always been able to be that father figure for some of these kids. Yeah. And so and I think I think you bring up a great point. It's not just a transition for kids in junior high. It's also a transition for parents. Yeah. You're going from caregiver parent now to like a coach parent. Almost a coach, yeah. And then after high school, and then now you become a coach / consultant. Right. Yeah. You know. Yeah. You're more advisor. Of a trainer if they hire you. Right. Absolutely. You know? But it's important that the parents make that transition too. Yeah, absolutely. And just always have open communication with their kids. As much as they say, how was your day at school? Good. Yeah. How's everything going? Great. Yeah. You want to talk about anything? No. There is this inner cry for them to be heard. Yep. And it's so interesting that it doesn't happen when you want to go to their room and sit down on their bed and say, talk to me. It happens on the car rides. It happens when you're shopping for shoes. It happens in those other areas where you miss it. Like my deep conversations with kids don't ever happen when I say, hey, everyone, come here. We're going to have a deep conversation. They happen when I'm helping them with a math problem. I say, hey, how's everything going at home? How's this happening? When they come in during lunch, I ask a question and it leads to a full conversation where they just want to be heard. Yeah. And I think as parents, we just always have that thing inside of us that says, I'm always ready to have a conversation if you want to. I'm always ready to hear. It might not happen on my time frame,
but I'm ready to listen.
But you have to, it's like you have to set the table. There has to be a safe environment.
Exactly.
To do that. It can't just be, hey, come tell me what you want and invite them to a house of horrors.
Yes.
You know, like there needs to be a place where they feel safe. And I think you pointed it out is during this time is we have an opportunity now. Some parents aren't stay at home.
Right.
I know some parents that they have to drop off at a grandparent's house, at a daycare, or you know, we saw a picture a few days ago on social media of these two girls sitting outside of a Taco Bell to get Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to parents, or even within our community? How do we take care of those who aren't getting that? They aren't getting the parent who can be at home. They're literally doing this on their own.
Yeah, I think those kids, they need those. You got to create those special moments, right? I was talking to a friend the other day. I said, listen, the things that you value are in your schedule. You could say you value your wife, but if you don't spend time with your wife, you really don't value your wife. Your words may, but your heart doesn't. Same thing with your kids. If your kids have no special time in your schedule, you can say you value them, but your time is showing that you don't value them as much as you think you do. And so even if you can't be there, you have to work. You have to drop off at a aunt's or uncle's or a grandparent's house. Make sure you're spending special nights out of the week or on the weekend. Say like, this is your time, like me and you, face to face. It doesn't have to be, let's sit on the couch. It could be, let's play video games together. Let's go play basketball together. Let's go get froyo together. Like, let's have time where it's just me and you to connect with you because I value you. And you can give kids money, but kids know fake faster than we do most times.
Yeah, they do.
But if you give them time, that means the world to them, especially right now.
Absolutely.
I think where we're at right now.
That's so good. What about the new teachers? This is a question we got here online. During this difficult time, what advice would you give them to have a successful class?
I think new teachers are at an advantage because most of us know technology. Most of us have grown up with it. So in that aspect, you should be fine. What's nice is that the first 2 years of teaching is always your hardest because you don't know classroom management. Zoom classroom management is the easiest thing. Mute, video off, video off. You know what I mean? Classrooms managed, right? Like there's no. So in that aspect, you have a really good opportunity to hone in your teaching skills.
Wow. And
you can video record. Like I've been video recording my lessons for 2 years. So when COVID happened, you need to send kids lessons. I've had 2 years worth of lessons. I was ready in 2018, not knowing 2020 was coming. It was just for my own personal database of lessons.
No one knew that 2020 was coming.
No one. No, just the Lord, right? And so, I think for new teachers, just hone in on your teaching skills. Even because most teachers, if you teach at a middle school, high school level, you have different periods. So you could even record different lessons and see which kids respond better to, I taught it this way, or I taught it that way. And so really hone in on your teaching skills. Record yourself because you think you teach a certain way. I'm sure you know this, but when you see it on video, you're like, I did not know my hand did that every time I taught, right? And so I would focus on the teaching aspect, which you'll be so lucky to get that in your first 2 years. Most of us are just trying to stay alive and not cry once the bell rings at 3:15, right? Like most of us are just like, hold it together. These kids don't hate me, right? I didn't make a mistake in my life. Like
I didn't get tied up on the chair.
Right, exactly. You get an excuse, miss that your first year, or if it's your second year, and you could really hone in on your teaching skills, which would be incredible.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I just want to make sure I hit all these questions. Do you feel that students have been more, less, or equally motivated, and why?
It's so funny. A parent asked me that, and I said, they are, it's like the same as money, right? If someone gives you a lot of money, it's just going to highlight who you were before. If you were greedy, we're all going to know you're greedy. If you were bad with your money, now we're really all going to know you're bad with your money. Like it just highlights who you are. I think this digital learning just highlights who your student is. If your student was a high achiever, it's not going to change. They're going to they're going to stay a high achiever. If your student did nothing in class and you didn't know about it, now you know about it because you see them with their head down on the table doing absolutely nothing. And so it just highlights. But I think it gives the parent opportunity to level with their kid in a way to say, listen, I'm going to do this with you. Like, I'm going to do 7th grade in math, Common Core, as much as I hate it and don't understand it. I'm going to do it with you, and we're going to learn together. And I would just think like it'd be so empowering to see that. Because I remember my dad when I was in like maybe a freshman or sophomore, he said, I can no longer help you in math, right? Like I'm like, this is it. Like we have crossed the threshold of what I know to what you are going to learn. But I mean, even imagine you're 3rd grader, you're able to sit there and they're able to do work with their best friend. I mean, like we all love doing stuff with our best friend. Now your 3rd grader, your 5th grader gets to do their homework, their classwork with their best friend. And make those times memorable and enjoyable. I mean, it's so easy to get frustrated. And I think really what this time's doing, I just spoke on this past Sunday, is it shows us what's in our heart. What comes out of our heart, this anger and frustration, isn't because of distance learning. It's because there's something in your heart. And it really gives us time to self-reflect. Why am I getting so mad at my kid? Is it because I want them to be better than I was and there's some insecurities inside of me that say, man, I struggled at school and people called me dumb, so I don't want no one calling you dumb. And you're gonna be smart. Like there's some stuff going on in our hearts too. But I think your kids would just grow so much and be able to learn so much from seeing their parent work through and struggle something. If your kids never saw you struggle, then when they start struggling, they're gonna think they're a failure. But if they see their parents struggling and work through it and achieve something, now they know struggling is okay. I can't stay here. I got to work harder. And I got to get through this. Same way my mom and dad did. So I think being real with the struggle, being real that we're going to get through this together, so empowering for kids.
One of the most important things I've learned in this past 6 months was from one of our people in our church who she's a teacher in Downey, but she posted something that she teaches her girls, and it just changed the way that I parented. And it was simply this: is you can do hard things. If you can teach your kids that they're able to do hard things, that we don't back down from hard things, that we can accomplish this together, man, you've formed this like brotherhood. There's this like, we've both been through something difficult together, and we came out the other side. And so that's incredible.
Every time you go through something difficult, you either grow closer together or farther apart. Right? In a marriage, you go through conflict. You either come out like, I'm in love with you, or I don't know if this is going to work. You're going to go one way or the other. I think same thing with your kids. And you could really come out of this stronger than you were together. I tell my 4-year-old, I said, listen, it's okay if you mess up. It's okay if you fail. But what are we supposed to do? And she's supposed to say, we just have to learn from it. Like it's okay to fail, but we got to learn from it. We got to learn from it.
That's good. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. Believe it or not, we're already
that was fast.
30 minutes. That
was a sprint.
But seriously, the information that you shared, the insight and the wisdom, not only from your heart as a teacher, but even your heart as a pastor, really comes through. The way that you genuinely love your students. And you're not just talking about the gospel on Sundays, you're living it out. And so if you're watching today as a parent, I would encourage you, watch it again. There are some really great things. Go back, take notes, pause. And if you know parents who are struggling, can I encourage you, share this video with them. It's a 30-minute video that would, I think, really help equip and make us parents. I know just me as a parent, I'm feeling like, okay, I can do better now. Like, I feel like I'm not drowning. And so just thank you. Thank you so much. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for continued content. Next week, we're going to have marriage family therapist Emily Sanders on with us, and she's going to talk about mental health during this quarantine COVID season that we're all in. And we want to make sure we get your questions. So make sure to send those even ahead of time on our Facebook or Instagram, or you can DM us, anything that would help us to get those questions so we can ask those for her. Again, you are loved, thankful for you, and continue to wrestle with these real things as God continues to reveal his faithfulness to us. Have a fantastic night, and we'll see you soon. Seriously, that.